Elbrooks Patterson.
Thank you very much, everybody. Armando, thank you for that very generous introduction. One thing you didn't tell the audience was I'm a notary. You left that on. I am delighted to be here. I didn't realize that you've had this many Oakland County residents, run into a whole lot of people from back home. I see you have show of hands from the Oakland County residents here. Oh, hell, we could have met with Troy Mary over here. Nice to see you. Delighted to join all of you, Oakland County, Wayne County, and have a chance to talk about a little bit about the county, a little bit about some of the topics du jour, and then, of course, any question you want to file out, whether it's something I say this morning or something you want to ask me about. Look forward to taking a variety of questions. I'm now introducing myself as Brother Patterson, the other county exec, to make sure that we all understand where I'm going. I'm delighted to be here. I had an interesting experience a couple of days ago. I worked out with my trainer, and I've been doing so for a number of years, ever since I got my first stint. You gotta be concerned. So I was working out with him, and a new gal showed up in class. Very attractive, physically fit, toned, but very pretty lady. So I said to the trainer, what machine should I use to attract her attention? My trainer said, try the ATM machine in the That was my former trainer. I'm delighted to be here with all my new friends. Let me start out with a couple of topics du jour, as I said, and of course that would have to be Detroit, and then a little bit about Wayne County, and then let me flip over to Oakland by way of comparison. I mean, Detroit is dominating the news, not necessarily good news. It's getting some terrible press nationally, not internationally. Today it's going through the headlines in one of the local papers that I saw was Detroit versus Detroit. That's the lawsuit that will be heard this morning up in Ingham County, and that's the lawsuit filed by Ms. Crittenden challenging the validity of the consent agreement. And if that is ruled invalid, obviously there will be an appeal, but it just puts more stall when we really don't need stall. Time is of the essence. The city is on the verge of going not bankrupt, but going out of money, running out of money, paying with paydays. The city of Detroit is the largest employer in Detroit. If you don't pay them and they don't come to work, then what do you have? What happens with the police? What happens with the fire system? What happens if people who run the water system stay home? So you got all kinds of unanswered questions, and the ramifications of this lawsuit are yet to be determined, and it's fascinating in sort of a ghoulish way. It's just something you've never seen before, never thought you'd see before, is a city the size of Detroit in such desperate straits. And I was listening to on the radio this morning coming down here, Charles Pugh being interviewed by Paul W. And he was blaming it all on the governor. And I kept thinking, that's really a quantum leap, blaming Detroit's problems on the governor. The governor's saying, hey, this is your mess, clean it up. So it's today is going to be, I think, an eventful day for the corporation, the city of Detroit. If they rule the consent agreement invalid, then all hell will break loose. Money is only probably good until next week, and then it really gets, I think, dicey. The consent agreement is part of this new Public Act 4, PA 4 you hear so much about. PA 4 is the successor to Public Act 72. 72 was the emergency financial manager. PA 4 is emergency manager. Pulled out the word financial for a reason. Emergency financial manager can only deal with finances. The emergency manager can deal with everything. And that's what PA 4 does. And I know PA 4 up close and personal because we have an emergency manager in the city of Pontiac. And I'll tell you about that very quickly, what he has achieved. The emergency manager is shock and awe. They come in and they can do a lot of things very quickly. And the city is fighting. They don't want an emergency manager. They say we can handle our own finances, which I don't think they can. And when emergency management went into the city of Pontiac, because it's a microcosm of what's happening in Detroit, we dropped to the bottom line. Pontiac is now in the black, operating within its revenues. The emergency manager is about to withdraw and give the city back to the city fathers, but they've been sitting on the sideline for about 18 months. But in order to get there, this is what Pontiac is. You give enough. Pontiac doesn't have a police department. Pontiac contracts with my sheriff's department. Pontiac doesn't have a fire department. Pontiac contracts with water. Pontiac does not have a city hall or a city clerk. We do the clerk's business in my clerk's office. And so when Pontiac used to have 450 employees, today they have 40. That's why the public unions are fighting this law so vehemently, because they can see what's coming from city to city around the state. And there are a lot of cities right on the precipice of emergency management. Detroit's fighting it for the same reason. And you can understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm a big fan of PA4 because over here you got a city, any city, that's in fiscal chaos, fiscal distress. You got an emergency manager who's the last chance to restore some sanity to the whole process. You pull him out, you got a fiscal distress and you got bankruptcy. And so PA4 does play a very important intervening role. And if that law is declared unconstitutional, and there's a petition drive to have it on the ballot, and if that is certified by the Board of Canvassers, now it's in court. The point is, if it's certified as a legal question, boom, PA4 is in suspension until the election in November. It's all like the emergency managers who are working in the state would be withdrawn. I would lose shovel and Pontiac. And the city fathers who got us into the mess would come back in and take over. So I think 4 is a stopgap measure. As I said before, it's shock and awe. But I think at these points, when we reach crisis level, you need an outside person who's not beholden to the system, who comes in and makes the tough calls that, for whatever reason, those in charge refuse to make or cannot make. Let me just give you a quick picture of Detroit, and I think you can understand how they got into the mess they're in. Most of these numbers, I have a cold, you're going to have to pardon me as I deal with my sniffles here. Most of these numbers come from the Citizens Research Council, so I think that says they're pretty valid. Real estate values over the last 8 years, incredible. Real estate values in the city of Detroit over 8 years dropped 97%. So the homes went from an average of $97,848 down to $12,439. 25% of Detroit population left during that same time frame. Detroit gets about 14% of its revenue for its budget from property taxes. The average in Michigan is 60%, so well below the state average. Last decade, the income taxes in Detroit dropped from $380 million down to today $220 million. Well, if you lose jobs, you lose revenue from income tax. The business loss, this goes back to '72. And unfortunately, my numbers only go up to 2001, so I'm going to have to try to find more current numbers. But between 1972 and 2001, basically a 30-year period, businesses in Detroit dropped from 23,465 down to 7,817. There's 383 parcels of land in Detroit. Unfortunately, Detroit owns 110,000. Reverted to the city of Detroit. You don't pay taxes if the city owns those parcels. Citizens Research Council suggests that the total debt, all in debt for Detroit, is over $14 billion. So it has really reached crisis proportion. Stay tuned. Today's lawsuit and the determination by the judge up there, Collette is his name. I predict, it's always tough to make predictions on my reports, but I got a few judges in the audience, so I'm sure validate that. But I think he will declare the consent agreement invalid. And this is then we'll let the games begin. Wayne County, again, watching Wayne County from afar, it's just more revelation after revelation after revelation. The numbers that Bishop McConnell puts out sometimes are challenged by his own people, his own budget departments, and I just don't want to say too much about it because he's not. Wayne County's not where Detroit is, but Wayne County's doing his best to get there, and we'll keep an eye on that. Let me talk about my county that I know so much more about than everybody in Detroit. I'm delighted to have a chance to bring it all up to speed, and that was the request this morning to bring it up to speed on what's happening in Oakland. And I'll say right from the get-go that Brooks Patterson is only one of a team. I've got some really good men and women in government service who, any of them who go to the private sector and make more money, but they enjoy the challenge, they enjoy the success, making something happen. If it's broke, we fix it. If it doesn't exist, we create it. And that's been the mantra since day one. And I see one of my former directors out here, Maureen Krause. Maureen, where are you? Yes, sorry. She was my former director of economic development. She was for a number of years as director, and really one of the most important aspects of my government, my county, is economic development. We're always trying to bring in more business, do jobs, different kind of jobs. Maybe I'll explain that in a moment. recently joined the Chamber of Commerce down here in Detroit. Oakland County, we, as our man said in his introduction, enjoyed the benefits of the AAA bond rating. We got that back in 1998. We held on to it during that terrible decade, the first decade when the recession clobbered us in 2007, 8, and 9. My county lost 60,000 jobs in 1 year. Incredible. It was a huge body blow. That's when Chrysler and GM both went bankrupt. Chrysler was headquartered in Oakland. As you know, GM was my largest employer, not anymore, Beaumont Hospital. So we lost a significant amount of job, but still we were able to convince Wall Street that we were AAA credit worthy. And what that means when you're all businessmen, businesswomen here in the chamber, you know exactly what that means. When we go to market on issues, whether it's roads or drains or sewer, whatever the public works project might be, we go there with the lowest possible interest rate, 2.8, 2.7%. In order to fund these projects. AAA allows us to do that. It's tough for us to get a firm number on the amount of money we've saved since we got that AAA back in '98, but we know it's in the millions, even tens of millions of dollars we have saved by going to the market with low interest rates. And we've worked out a way now that the 61 communities in Oakland County can borrow off my AAA. So when a local community, whether it's Birmingham or Commerce, goes to market, we loan them. They pay back on our AAA, so they get the benefit of that. Moody's, in the last go-around, called Oakland County the best managed county in America. I'm not flattering myself, I'm flattering the team I've got. I've got a great team, and we really do set some benchmarks for. And when it comes to budgeting, like Amanda pointed out, we're the only county, 3,200 some odd county, we're the only county who has mastered the 3-year budget. So I'm in balance today for 2012, 2013, 2014, and we're already working on problems that we see out in 2015. And they're not significant, but they're there because the economy is beginning to recover. But those problems, when they manifest themselves in the current fiscal year, when we get there to 2015, those problems will be long resolved. And that's really been a secret to our success, this long-range plan. We call it thoughtful management versus crisis management. Because we have this long-term approach, we see the problem way out front. We deal with them now, and by the time we get there, it should be a pretty smooth year for us. I also had the good sense back in 2004 or 5 to form a budget task force. I've got 5 deputies in my administration. They direct report to me. Then I have 2 major departments, which is HR and management budget. Those 2 directors and my 5 deputies, I created a task force. They meet literally every Monday to work on one thing, the budget, problems, hybrid, the freezes, what freezes we have, but everything that has any kind of financial implication has to come through the task force. And I gave them carte blanche to do what they have to do to make sure the county books are balanced. In fact, we're running a significant surplus. And I've got to tell you, on the side, I gave them such power. We're looking for ways to cut costs, and those bastards took my car 2 years ago. So, be careful what you create. I'm not driving a Chrysler 300 that I own outside there. But it worked, because the task force is very, very tough. They sit, and everybody in the county knows who they are, and they have to get through there to get anything. Another employee added, any kind of a promotion, and we've been riding herd on it. So this past year, when we ended the fiscal year, September 30th, I think Wayne was running about a $160 million deficit. Detroit was, well, we can't count Detroit's number because the reports are so thin, but several hundred million probably. Macomb was about 30 million short, and we ran a $201 million surplus. And so that really does set us apart. And that's why Moody's says we're a well-managed county. And it goes back to the team I've got in place who are so good at what they do that we continue to run those kinds of. Now we're going to live on that surplus. We asked my employees for cuts in wages and benefits and so forth. Those days are over. I've laid nobody off. We reduced our workforce by 300 through attrition. And we've reduced salaries, we've added costs for prescriptions and so forth. But those days are over. I got that surplus, we're going to live off that until 2015. By that time, we know that our budget, the revenues will be restored, and we should be well on our way to the halcyon days we used to enjoy. We have a economic forecast luncheon, and we hired many years ago, almost 20 years ago, foremost economists, I think, in the country, Fulton and Grimes from UVM Labor Institute, and they do forecasting for the state, they do forecasting for Oakland. Now Holmes picked them up, Wayne's picked them up, and they go all around the country. And we had that lunch in April, and Don Fulton up to the mic and he says, you know, I predicted Oakland County would create 13,000 new jobs during 2011. This is just a couple months ago. He said, I got to apologize. I have never been so far off in my projection. Oakland County did not create 13,000 jobs last year. They created 23,000. They missed it by a full 10,000. He says, you cannot maintain that pace. You are red hot. It's non-sustainable. So it's going to cool off. We know it's going to cool off. So the next 3 years, you'll add 35,000 more. But 23,000 and 35,000, you see we're back in the job creation business. That 60,000 I lost in 09, we're quickly trying to recoup from that. We have a new program that we just launched yesterday. If you come to my campus, you'll see around my building 18708, 18 sets of paper, 18708. That's the number of jobs I have to create, my county has to create in order to get to below 5% unemployment. If I can find 18,708 jobs, we'll drop below 5. That's my goal, and I'll tell you we're going to be there within 18 months. How did we get to where we are? I mean, we're pretty solid. Nice surplus, AAA, jobs on the rise, and we got there again through, I think, the task force was a big help for us. And then, I know you won't be able to see this, it's too small, but every one of these entries is a change to our benefit schedule. And we've had some 20-some adjustments that really have put us in good shape. First one right back here in 1984, we discontinued longevity pay. What that meant, if you were with the county for more than 10 years, you got a kicker, 10%. Well, we discontinued doing that. That was the handcuff in the old days. Give you a kicker if you stayed longer. Well, we did away with the handcuff, and since we did away with that, we have saved $55 million in payments. We go all the way through this list. In 2006, we discontinued the traditional defined benefit. We went to our DC plan, defined contribution, and on that one we saved $400 million. So all the way through here, if you took all the adjustments we've made to benefits and so forth, the total we have saved is $650 million. That's why the county is in such good financial shape. We started a long time ago. Remember my mantra, thoughtful management versus crisis management? This is for years and years, a couple of decades of thoughtful management, making the cuts we had to make, and now the benefits have come home to roost. I think the significance of the whole benefit package that we produced can be spelled out in one fact. We're the only county in America, the only one to have paid off our legacy costs. You hear so much about legacy costs for promises made for retired health care. We're done. We paid it off a couple of years ago. We got within striking distance, $650 million. We had an actuary back in the 80s tell us what we had to pay. So we've been making payments quietly, below the radar screen. Back about 3 years ago, we got within $650 million of final payments. So we sold some bonds, paid it off. I dropped my interest rate because the bonds are cheaper than what I was paying for the health care, for the funding, the benefits for retiree health care. We saved the residents of Oakland County $150 million in short time frame on those bonds from 30 down to 20 years. So it was a win-win-win all the way around. Again, it gives me bragging rights. The only county that has no legacy costs. So the county's in good shape from that perspective as well in that regard. Let's talk very quickly about the future, then I'll take some questions. The future, I think, will be summed up in the program that Armando told you about back in 04. A little bit of prescience on our part. We saw we had a lot of eggs in one basket called the automotive basket. And I couldn't get out of that basket fast enough when we caught up with this in 09 because Chrysler went bankrupt and GM went bankrupt. But we saw it coming, not the bankruptcy. We just saw that there was a change in the kind of jobs for the future. So we went out and did our research and we found 10 sectors for employment in the future. And those sectors, of course, are the ones that we now call the emerging sectors. And every month my staff gives me a report on how we're doing bringing business into these 10 sectors. Very quickly, I can tell you what they are, and I think there'll be no surprises here. And just alphabetically: advanced electronics, advanced materials, nanotechnology, aerospace, alternative energy, communication, and IT. Here's one that popped up. We did a lot of research. This one popped up to the top 10 growth sector, and I said, nah. Went back, and sure enough, defense and homeland security, a growth sector. I guess that says a lot. Film and digital media, insurance, that's finance and insurance, medical, Main Street, robotics, water technology. So my staff gives me this report. They tell me how we're doing since we kicked this program off in 4. We researched it in 3, launched it in 4. And here's my grand totals. Success since inception. We brought in 205 companies within those parameters of those 10 sectors. They've invested $1.8 billion, created 26,000 jobs, held on to 11,006, and have paid to the federal, state, local units of government over 46 million, of which the county got to 4.3, so it's paying for itself. This program, diversification, is the future growth of the county. We're going into the high-tech sector. You might call it the knowledge-based economy. That's where I'm gambling. That I think this country is going to go, and certainly I want to be leading here in this county. The knowledge-based economy. Those are sustainable, high-paying jobs in the future. And when we get there, I think it's going to be a 25-year. We've been in it for 8, so we've got a little way to go before we get to the diversification that I think is necessary. And then at the end of that time, I will tell you, I don't think this program will make Oakland County recession-proof. But I will argue that it will make Oakland County recession-resistant. That we spread out the risk over so many sectors, and that's the goal of emerging sectors. And so the future is, from my perspective, this program, emerging sectors. I got my whole team working on downstairs. Got 109 people in economic development. Everybody is laser focused on emerging sectors. One other thing, IT. Budget obviously dominates in this climate. The budget is dominating in Detroit. Budget is dominating in Wayne, and we too. It's something we work on every week at the budget task force. But we still can walk and shoot gun. My IT department, for the last 2 years, has been recognized by the Center for Digital Government, not the department, but the department that's got us there as a county, as the most digitally progressive county in America. I mean, the highest IT inculcation of information technology benefits into our daily workforce. And so 2 years in a row, we're ranked #1 out of 3,200 counties. And so we're doing other things besides budgeting, which we can spread out our efforts. And so, very quickly, we have time also to develop what I call quality of life issues, heart, speech, and needs. We started that back in '99. It's now a major festival, ranked in the top 10 in the country as far as attraction. Count Your Steps. That was a program I asked my friends in the corporate sector to help me support buying binometers for every 3rd and 4th grader in Oakland County. And then we walk for a whole month. And the kids, the winning classes, get to go to the zoo, to the wave park, and the wave pool, and the park, and so forth. These kids have walked 17 billion steps combined. And getting them off the couch away from the video games, just trying to fight childhood obesity. The Brooksy Way, labor of love for me. I lost my son in '07. In February of '07, I gave a speech. It was actually February 7th of '07. And I said I wanted to introduce a half marathon to get more physical fitness, get in the community, feel, stay healthy. And 3 days later, I lost my voice. So the committee then named the race the Brooksy Way. And that's an extrapolation from the eulogy my son-in-law gave when he said, "You're going to live life. Go for the deepest snow. If you're rafting, go for the white water. Do it the Brooksy Way." That's the name of the race. We're in our 5th year this year, and we probably have over. We're going to attract over 6,000. When we did our inaugural one back in '08, we had 4,000. The largest inaugural race in Michigan. Now we'll be over 67 rows every year. But here's the point I want to make. We run not a big profit, a reasonable profit. We take the money that we make from support from sponsors and from registrations. We set up a fund called the Brooksy Way Mini, M-I-N-I, Mini Grant. Any organization in Oakland County that has as its mission, its purpose for that group, for that organization, to improve the health of its membership, or to improve the health of the community, will help fund their costs. And so, 5K at the church, a swim class for challenged kids, a dance club for seniors, get them up and move. Anything that you have that will improve the health of the residents of the county, you can apply for a mini grant. We've given out close to 90,000 now. To organizations around the country. So the money we get from the race we put back in to, again, trying to improve the health and ultimately the quality of life. So it's a good event and it gets a lot of support. Well, with that, I know I'm talking quick. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. And as I say, ladies and gentlemen, anything is fair game as far as the questions go. And I want to thank you for inviting me down this morning to join you. I want to point out, as the questions start, Tony Michaels is sneaking out on me. Tony, I see him. So I'm not going to be offended.